I want to, I think, officially start this and welcome everyone to La Scuola International School. Thanks for joining our spotlight event about bilingualism and language immersion. My name is Donia Solari. I'm the Director of Admission at La Scuola. And just as a side point, my son is in 8th grade and we do not have Italian at home. Today, you're going to hear from our language specialists, from faculty, from leadership, and from a current parent. And we're going to have some time for Q&A at the end of the meeting. So please put your questions in the chat and we'll address them later. And I think we're a small enough group to for our staff to introduce themselves. Sally, do you want to go first?
Hello, my name is Sally Meehan Peterson. I'm the Director of Teaching and Learning at La Scuola.
Thank you. And then I see Beatrice next.
Hi, I'm Beatrice Penny, and I'm the kindergarten teacher here at La Scuola. I teach kindergarten Azzurri this year.
Letizia.
Hi, buongiorno. My name is Letizia Sullivan. I teach 4th grade. I'm also IB PYP coordinator and the language specialist in the elementary school and middle school. Buongiorno, benvenuti.
Buongiorno. I see Valentina Zerbini next.
Hi everyone, my name is Valentina Zerbini and I teach in Grandi, which are 3 and 4 years old.
Wonderful. And Paola.
Buongiorno a tutti, my name is Paola Barberi. I'm the admission associate at La Scuola and also the parent of a graduate.
Great. And I just see Valentina, head of school, joined us. Malle, do you want to say welcome?
Buongiorno. Thank you so much for finding the time to be here with us. This is always one of my favorite events. And as you know, I really believe that you should never ask yourself why joining a bilingual school. You should ask yourself, why not? The gift of bilingualism and language immersion is a wonderful one you can give your child. So thank you for being here.
Wonderful. Thank you, everyone. I am going to start this presentation. We will go through some questions. And like Valentina just said, it's not so much why bilingualism, but why not? And we'll address some common questions. Here's our first question. Why Italian?
So I'm going to start. As I said before, I'm Beatrice. I'm teaching kindergarten. So like, throughout the years, I've been seeing myself firsthand how children are learning Italian. And so why Italian? Well, I am Italian, so maybe I'm biased, but I think it's the most beautiful language in the world. And we quoted also that there in the slide because, Valentina, our head of school, is also mentioning that many times. And it really is, it's the 4th most studied language in the world after English, Spanish, and French. And, I think we think that Italian really gives you a hedge in finding connection with other languages like French, Spanish, they all come from a similar root and they come from Latin, which also gives a hedge to many people like in studying scientific vocabulary. It's also a very transparent language. We've noticed throughout the time that children are really having a blast in their reading and writing, as Italian is very easy to learn. Every sound corresponds to a letter, so they start reading really soon. It's also a language that is connected to music, arts, literacy, creativity. So we really value all that and we embed it into our curriculum. Another question that we have, it's so how are families that does not have Italian at home, if we don't, how can a child be successful at La Scuola? So here, I'm speaking for experience or being a teacher for being for a while here at La Scuola in kindergarten. Many children, they can come in kinder, as a first step on learning a second language or learning Italian as a second language. And I have to say that, yes, of course, they're gonna be successful at La Scuola. They're still at the age of being, into a language acquisition window. They can learn Italian almost as a native speaker person. And, this is happening in kindergarten. I also want to, give, turn to Valentina Zerbini, who is the grandissimi teacher, grandi teacher, sorry, to talk a little bit about how the preschool works for that.
Yes. So, well, when they first start La Scuola, even the children that don't have Italian at home, of course, they have a non-verbal period for quite some time. And that's the period where they gather all the information and they kind of like rehearse the new language in their head. So and of course, they're learning this through song and through visual. So we use a lot of like, the routine helps them a lot understand what we mean, like washing hands. So we use a lot of like hand gestures, or like cleaning up the toys, ciao ciao giochi, or it's time to put our shoes on. So the routine helps because it's repeated. So repetitions it's a key for this year, for this age. But I also wanted to say that even if you don't have Italian at home, the children are able to put all this information together and use the words when they need to use it. They can figure it out in their brain when to use it. And I wanted to show a very short clip of a child who did not have Italian parents at home and was able to, when was asked to present a project, she was able to tell the story of everything in Italiano. So you can see it here.
Okay, let me share this with you. You might want to up your volume a little bit. It's a little bit quiet, so just increase your volume a little bit.
La Scala è prendere il libro e questa è la porta per aprire la biblioteca.
Yes, I just wanted to show, even when she said piccola, she did a gesture to make you understand, but she was able to express herself all in Italian, and it was just a great, it was just fantastic.
Right. Next question.
So how does my child transition from not understanding Italian to building up their language skill? Valentina explained a lot of what is, like you can see here in our slides. The main thing I think is, like, we want to point out is that, learning a language is a social process. So it goes through a relationship. You use the language because you want to communicate and to get into a relationship with someone. So when the language is valued in the community, and the community of La Scuola is, is very tight. The children wants to play with each other. They want to have a relationship with, with the teachers, and they hear that the Italian is the main language of the community. This is like I would say a precondition for them to understand why they're learning this language, because it's a valued language, it's the valued language of La Scuola community. The process through which, they're using to build that skill, how it's going to look like. So I put here some, bullet points of how this is happening. As Valentina was mentioning, we're going through a listening phase first, when, they find connections with English, but they also find connections with, things that they see around, images, or gestures, as she was mentioning. They start understanding basic sentences when, the routines and the repetitions are happening every day. You will notice that, usually after a month of school, the children, they go home and they start repeating very short sentences, or introducing words into their language in Italian, because they hear them every day. So they become familiar to them, and they just start using them at that point. As Valentina also was mentioning, we use the 100 languages, which is a metaphor from the Reggio Emilia approach to say that we learn the language in various ways, through music, through arts, through, our body language. The speaking part, that's the thing that sometimes many parents, they ask us, when my child is going to start speaking. usually the part that takes a little bit more time, because there is a big part of incorporating first, and then just starting introducing words into their language, into their speaking. So they're gonna speak in English and say maybe like just one word into the sentences, like my cane is called dog. And then they will start using very short sentences that they hear from school: lavare le mani, wash your hands, or like mettere le scarpe, put your shoes on, things like that. The most important thing, and I put this as final, is like the confidence and pride that the children are taking when they learn a new language. And really like when they start learning even just one word, you would see like that kind of connection that they're making between the language that they know and the new language that they're learning, and really are proud of that. And like yesterday in my classroom during snack, some children, they were like so proud to say, I know 3 languages, I know this, and maybe they just know like 2 words, but that's enough to build that confidence and pride in like, I'm a learner. Yes, the transition, it will take time, but it's definitely happening.
And we'll show a little video here at this point.
I wanted to show you like a video of one of the kindergarten students from last year that is introducing words into his speech. So he's talking about his favorite way of expressing himself, and you will see that like he's transitioning from English into Italian, and then from Italian into English, and that's how it sounds like at the beginning when they start learning.
Quale linguaggio preferisci usare per esprimere la tua idea?
Libri. Fare a casa we tape papers together, and I flip the pages where I put pictures on the books. So I made books at my house.
E di cosa parlano questi libri?
Di cose.
Quali cose?
Come race cose.
E gli altri, quando leggono i tuoi libri, come si sentono secondo te?
Felice.
Okay. Back to the presentation. Okay. The next question is, how is English taught at La Scuola at an immersion school? We'll hear from Sally.
Yes. So English happens in the play yard. It happens over lunch and quite a lot socially, as well as our formal introduction of English in first grade with our 20%. And so when children arrive to first grade, they have been exposed to, the reading and the talking and the listening and the writing in Italian. So the emphasis starting in first grade is around the phonics, understanding that the vowel sounds are going to be different in English, and what are those rules. So it's a very methodical process, and the students, we follow a phonics program through Columbia University, as well as the reading and writing workshop. And we are learning these vowel sounds and what are those rules. So it begins with inventive spelling. So students are applying what they're hearing, and then they start learning, well, in this particular vowel sound, we're going to be putting these 2 letters together. And that is the journey that's pretty intense through first and second grade, and the students will see their evolution over time. We do continue to keep a strong relationship between reading and writing, so the students can constantly see, sort of like addition and subtraction. The 2 go together, and their effort in the reading will impact their effort in the writing. On the presentation is just one sample. This is the very beginning of second grade. You'll see the organization that's carried over from work in Italian, the organization of the ideas, and you'll see some inventive spelling. This is what the child is hearing. And then we work through identifying what are the rules around those sounds. And it's an amazing adventure for the students. They buckle up and they join in and have all sorts of discovery. I can go on to, I mean, the question is, well, how do we compare to our monolingual peers, you know, other first graders or second graders or third graders and up? And with the thanks of AMP and Associates, we have, actually, it was a longitudinal study. I believe it was over about 25 years. These are benchmarks for monolingual and bilingual students taking an annual standardized test. It's called the, you'll see there, it's Education Record Bureau. And these are particular tests, the verbals, verbal reasoning, reading comprehension, vocabulary, writing mechanics, that's the language part, and then we have the mathematics. So in the third grade, if we're looking at the red as the measure for bilingual students in bilingual independent schools, and we're comparing against the blue, we will notice that in third grade, the scores for this one-time annual test in verbal, vocabulary, comprehension, and writing mechanics may not be at the same point as the monolingual who has it 5 days a week. If we move up to sixth grade, we see a shift. So before we saw it below, now we're seeing some acceleration. So in sixth grade, and this at La Scuola, in third, fourth, and fifth, the Italian and English is 50-50. So 50% English instruction, 50% Italian. When we're at the sixth grade, we start seeing 70% English instruction. So student score have excelled. And then when we look at the point of leaving middle school, we will see an even larger growth and advancement around the language. We see mathematics stay strong and the verbal reading comp excel. At La Scuola in the middle school, there's also a third language. So Spanish is a second Romance language. So again, we have this strength of additional languages, deepening and strengthening, especially when it comes to vocabulary as well.
Great. Our next question is, families who already have 2 or 3 languages at home, is it a good idea to add another one? I think Letizia is going to address this.
Absolutely. Yes, I mean, it's like playing different modalities of sports, right? Can you play soccer and basketball? And of course, it actually makes it even better or easier for the speaker. Like practicing one sport makes someone more athletic and apt to playing other sports. Being fluent in one language or more improves the aptitude to learn to language learning. Fluency skills in one language assist the language acquisition for a second language, and possessing the skills in 2 languages can boost the learning process for a third language, and so on. So it's like training the same area of the brain and making, creating these synapses and creating these pathways that will build better aptitude for learning more languages.
Then parents ask, how do they support their child at home?
First and foremost, by example. Children are always watching us and they learn by example. So if you're enthusiastic about learning language, they will also, they tend to also be enthusiastic, right? But if you hear from you that, well, it's difficult because it's in Italian and it's going to be difficult to learn another language, they will internalize your truth and they will try to follow what you're saying. But if there's enthusiasm in the learning, they will learn enthusiastically. We don't require that students take classes outside of school, for example, but every opportunity for extra exposure is always welcome. So if they want to, if the family listens to music together, watches media, listens to audiobooks in Italian, the more exposure to Italian, the better. So like with music, we, for example, have a very strong music program at La Scuola, but some families are enthusiastic and decide taking piano or guitar lessons after school. That's great as long as the child is happy with it and doesn't take it as a chore. So if the child wants to learn more and do more Italian, absolutely they can take some Italian classes after school. We also offer Italian induction summer camp, which is very fun, even more play-based, and there are themes per week like culinary and traveling. Each each year we have something different. So share your enthusiasm and increase your exposure to the language. That's the best thing that can be done to support your child at home.
Then we have a question about joining in the upper elementary years. How does that work?
So we differentiate our learning for everything and especially for language. So our teaching methods and are differentiated in the classroom, and we offer extra support to the students who arrive at the Scuola with no Italian at an older age. They participate in class with other students, but they also may have extra lessons before or after school. It looks a bit different right now during COVID time because everything is new normals and there are new practices and new routines. But we're doing it through Zoom classes with the students in different grades, for example. In a regular school year, they may have Italian induction sessions before class that we call zero period, or they can have after school, for example, participating in the homework club in the afternoon for after school programs.
Perfect. And now we're going to move to how do we do it at La Scuola?
So as you can see on the slide, we have a progression of exposure. We start with a near 100% exposure to Italian in the preschool. And then as they move on into elementary, like Sally explained, they start having more formal introduction to English and English literacy. So we go from 90% Italian and 10% English in the preschool to 80-20 in the K2 and the kindergarten to second grade. Then third through fifth grade, it will be 50-50 Italian English plus Spanish starting at fourth grade. Grades 6 and 7 have a shift. So they start having Italian 30% of the time, English is 70%. And we have a different program and a different track for the middle school as they are older and they come with a different, sorry, Vinny, can you check? I think we have a dog in the background somewhere. Thank you. And then, so where was I? So yes, so we learn through languages and we learn the language through the inquiry, right? So we are constantly learning the language and constantly inquiring into other subjects through Italian. So the child will learn the language and will study the language, but at the same time, we'll learn about the world, about science and social studies, geography through our units of inquiry in Italian. And it's like Beatrice pointed out earlier, it's relationship based, right? So the relationships that are built with the students and within the classroom, with the teachers, everything becomes part of the language learning. And they will learn language through language learning and through inquiry.
Okay. Next one.
Yeah, so we are going to point out some of the benefits, mainly cognitive advantages, linguistic advantages, and empathy, enhanced empathy. Our graduates result as trilinguals as they leave the Scuola with Italian, English, and Spanish. And something that is important for us to point out is that being bilingual or being multilingual is not that it's going to make our students better than others, but it's going to make them better than themselves. It's going to give them the opportunity to improve themselves and be a better version of themselves. The cognitive benefits are, there are several, it's a long list, and it's so interesting to see how more and more research comes in this field, and we observe it in local with our students. Researchers have shown that the bilingual brain can have better attention and task switching capacities than monolingual brains, because thanks to the developing ability to inhibit one language while using another. It's unlike general belief that we have to reach into this part of the brain and activate Italian when it's time to speak Italian, or activate English when it's time to speak English. We're actually having all the languages active at the same time at all times. And the bilingual or trilingual, multilingual needs to suppress one or more languages to ensure the one remaining is the one more effective the one remaining active is the one effective for the communication taking place. So it's like a subconscious brain gymnastics that results in enhanced ability to focus, enhanced ability to enhance working memory, executive function, and it brings, of course, to more academic success, which is directly connected with enhanced executive function. It's one of the major predictors of academic success. The linguistic benefits, they are amazing. Like it takes, it's very easy to see how students who speak one or more languages, they have more enhanced abilities in learning more languages and have the ability to have more a heightened language consciousness, right? And seeing language as a system that they can manipulate and that they can expand and analyze. Bilinguals demonstrate improved ability in seeing the language as a system that gives them the opportunity to perform higher level and deeper analysis, which results also in better grammar. This is because the languages reinforce one another, like Sally was showing before, like some skills that they carry over from Italian into English. And it provides tools to strengthen their phonologic and morphologic and syntactic skills. So they have better range of vocabulary, broader set of associations, expanded syntax, phonology, and which facilitate further language acquisition and better communication skills.
Beatrice.
Here I am. So why also, like, being multilingual or bilingual, like, is increased? How could it increase empathy? So as Letizia was mentioning before, when children knows that the language, that they need to use, it needs to be, for example, Italian, they know that they need to suppress English for the moment because they're speaking to an Italian person. So what does that mean for the empathy? When you start, using that mechanism, you start also like building a way of like taking in the points of view of the other person. So that's why I wrote here, like, children build a better understanding of others' perspective. I like to quote, like, to understand a speaker's intention, you must take the speaker's perspective. Which means that, like, when you speak another, the language of the other people who is listening or is interacting to you, you need to switch. There is a switch inside your mind, like, that means you're connecting to the other person. This connection also, like, build a great, like, deal of, like, showing empathy and showing understanding of the other person on different levels. Like in my experience as like a teacher in the classroom, it happens that many times, you can have children that they have Italian at home, like they speak Italian fluently, and children that they're learning from scratch. How does it look like in the classroom? I've never seen, like, there was never judgment. It is very non-judgmental. All the children, they're there and they know that, like, learning a language is a process of learning. It's like, different people they're learning different things. There are children learning math, children learning, how to write, children learning Italian. So there is a great deal of, like, showing support to one another between the peers, and the teachers too. Like, I'm an English learner, so, like, they know that everybody's learning and everybody's is making an effort into that. I wanted to show a little video of, like, one of my children this year in my classroom that explained how is helping other children in learning the language. I did the interview in English because I didn't want, we couldn't have time to put the subtitles, but, like, he explains very well what does it mean to help others.
Do all the kids at La Scuola know Italian?
No.
So how come?
Because they haven't been here for such a long time, and I've been to from preschool all the way to summer camp to kindergarten. I was learning Italian, and that was a lot of time.
Ma, do your parents know Italian?
No, they do know a little bit, but they don't pronounce it that well, so I have to correct them a lot.
But are you making fun of them?
No.
How do you do it? How do you help them?
I say it's not Dia de los Muertos, it's Dia de los Muertos.
Okay.
That's how I tell them.
And what about in the classroom? What do you do if one of your friends, needs help?
I help them.
And how do you help them?
Well, for example, if Athena needs help saying, telling Thea what a museum is, I can help her by telling her a little bit about it.
All right. So, how do you feel about the new kids that are coming to La Scuola in kindergarten?
I feel like they want to learn Italian.
Uh-huh. And what do you do?
I help them learn.
Grazie, Max.
Yeah. Oh, that was so sweet. We have a parent in the audience too. Duigo, would you like to share a little bit with all of us?
Sure. I'm Durga. I have two kids at La Scuola. My son is in 5th grade and my daughter is in 1st grade. They both joined La Scuola at kindergarten. Before that, they were in a different preschool. We're not an Italian-speaking family. Actually, we only speak Turkish at home. That's our rule. I only read them in Turkish. So my kids don't actually learn English at home. They learn both Italian and English at school. I might be biased, but I think they're doing really great. Beatrice know them, both of them. And I remember when my son was in kindergarten with Beatrice and Adam, my son is very bold. I should accept that, but I think it only took him a couple months to get comfortable and start speaking in Italian. And my daughter is a different personality, but she was very comfortable. And the very first thing she started saying within a couple of weeks was, again, Beatrice to correct me, but it was, I believe it was something like il mio preferito, parte di giorno, or something like that, again and again every day. So they are multilingual at this point, including Spanish, and it's so natural for them. It's as Beatrice and Leticia said, the more comfortable the parents are, the more welcoming the parents are. The kids are like sponges. They learn everything. It's not just language, but it's for everything. It's most of the time us imposing the fears or the challenges. These are, they come with very open-minded attitude. And as kids, they're bold. They can conquer everything. That's their initial attitude. So as long as you support that, they do have the brain and the capacity. I don't want to say much, but it's like just to reflect a couple other things Beatrice and Leticia was mentioning about how this is actually a social process. It's not just learning the language, it's actually learning the culture and the attitude. And while doing that, they are going through this different, they have to use different skills like monitoring or selecting or controlling themselves or switching at the same time, reading emotionally and physically reading the other individuals around them. And I'm a neuroscience researcher. I do lots of research in Alzheimer's disease. And I also see this as a long-term investment on our kids. There's a huge literature in Alzheimer's that shows that being bilingual or multilingual actually delays some of these age-related diseases, dementia, by 5 years. It doesn't cure it, but just when we talk about 5 years for a dementia patient, it's a big impact. And by bilingualism or multilingualism, we are truly contributing to both their brain reserve and cognitive reserve. These all these skills that they are acquiring while learning the language without knowing, these are the skills they're going to be, they use socially right now, but at the same time, it's reshaping their brains in a way that they're going to see the impacts when they're in their 60s and 70s. So it's a long-term investment on our kids. That's how I see it.
Thank you so much. That is wonderful.
I was curious to ask about the summer camps. I mean, can you speak to, like, do you recommend that for like all incoming students, or is that just sort of an optional thing? Like, what role do they play?
So, I mean, I can answer. We recommend it for definitely for all incoming students. I think it's a wonderful opportunity to just learn about La Scuola, learn about Italian, make friends. And I mean, any child that has attended so far, it's been a huge benefit before starting school. I don't know if any of you want to add to that.
Yeah, I just would like to add that, like I said before, every exposure opportunity is welcome. It's a great opportunity. Being the summer camp, or even traveling, or having a play date with the family of someone who speaks Italian, just being around the language is a great benefit. And like we've been saying, the summer camp gives them the opportunity to start getting involved in the community and getting involved in the whole La Scuola, and the whole, with we are, not just the language aspect, with the whole community and the whole atmosphere.
Yeah, I also want to point out that there is an Italian induction summer camp week. So it's specific for learning Italian. And there is one of the Italian teachers at La Scuola who's holding it. And usually it's the kindergarten teacher, because like the incoming kids that they're coming in kindergarten, at least, you know, they start knowing, you know, the new teacher. And this year, many of my children, they went to the Italian induction, and that's their starting point. You know, they're mentioning to me, oh, I started learning Italian at the summer camp. So it's not in kindergarten, you know, like that's their very starting point of learning.
Awesome, thank you.
Actually, we have another parent in the room who it would be great if you could share a little bit, Heather.
Sure. I have two kids at La Scuola. I have, I was going to say a preschooler, but she's a kindergartner now, and a third grader. And they went through the preschool. We don't speak Italian at home. We really don't speak any other languages at home, which is a huge reason why I felt like I wanted to commit to bilingualism, because I did not want my my children to not have a second language. You know, it's been really great. I think they will speak it with each other. It's become kind of a family project that they lead, right? So I keep taking classes and using different programs, and they're still always going to be the expert in pronunciation, the expert in sort of, they've internalized the meaning of the words. I think it was either around kindergarten or first grade when my older daughter started like really trying to translate, but she started using her whole body. So if a word meant something, you know, sort of happy, but like not just happy, she'd kind of get her whole body involved, which was so amazing to see. And then I think just one of the specific things that came up that isn't always as obvious is that empathy piece. My older daughter was maybe 4 or 5, kindergarten last year, preschool. We were at Dolores Park. She spotted somebody from La Scuola. She ran up to her and switched immediately to Italian. And I was really surprised because, you know, on a playground, everybody's speaking English. And I asked her later, I said, oh, you started speaking Italian to that little girl. And she said, oh, yes, she knows Italian better. And so this moment where she was like, I know that this is the language that is most, will make me connect with this person who wasn't in her class or anything, with this person the fastest, and kind of that process of just like slowing down and thinking about, you know, who you're going to engage with and their perspective. You know, even at that young of an age, I thought was so amazing and feels just so important in this world. I know that both my kids love translating for new kids. They love that process. You know, we've had kids come in, like move here from Italy, and the kids are really supportive in both the Italian and English speakers come in without any Italian, and like they love to tell me that, you know, they were doing the translating for that day. So it's been a really wonderful experience for us. And I have moments where I'm like, well, am I going to be able to help them to keep up? And, I think again, just the open-mindedness and like, I'm in the learning with them. And it's great. And I definitely know more Italian than I would have otherwise. So that's the added bonus.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Heather.